edition of In the Pocket, all thanks to Palmerbet. What a 2024 it has been, and what a grand final. And the Brisbane Lions Spide have taken out the AFL grand final. 10 goals, and even 10 goals, 60 points. I don't think either of us saw that coming. As I say, a good afternoon. How you going, big fella?
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm flat. And plus, the last podcast just for this year. Come on, let's have some hope that we're back next year. We're back next year, but look, just flat after. Yeah, look, and it could have been a lot more if Parker didn't kick through in the last. Well, it would have been another 90 point thumping of the Swans, and it's so hard to say, isn't it? Because it was a disappointing grand final. When you saw Geelong beat them a few years ago, I liked it because Geelong played their best game on the last day on the biggest stage, but Brisbane probably did the same. But when you look at them on paper, and it's always good in hindsight, Brisbane are a very, very good team.
Yeah, absolutely. And they strung together. Their kind of last 6 games, Spide, were amazing, to be honest. And to be in the situations they were in, they were down by 40 points against the Giants, like they were down against the Cats by 26 points. There was just, to have a season like that and to win some of those close games. And then I think the belief just kind of comes. It swells all of a sudden, doesn't it? And and I kept banging on about it last week, mate, but their selflessness, I reckon, was really evident the last 3 weeks in particular. Like, they were actually wanting to share the ball. They weren't caring who was kicking the goals and stuff, were they?
No, they weren't. And that's what you love about it. But you got to win premierships, and it's not your top tier of 10. You know what they're going to deliver, but it's your bottom tier of 6. You're 16 to 22. So, those players like Darcy Ford who come in, you didn't know much about Kyle Lohmann before the start of the year, but really, kind of stepped up. We didn't know how Ashcroft was going to be able to come back. And, there's all these players there. Starcevich, I thought, for Norman Smith, I reckon he had that at halftime. I just thought his first quarter, when the game was really there in the balance, anybody could kick goals when you're 7-8 goals up, and, they were lining up in the end and having shots from everywhere. But, when it really needed to be counted and when some players had to be really, tested, I thought Starcevich really stood up that first quarter and a half. So, those bottom tier players for Brisbane just really did lift. And, the top tiers from Sydney just didn't. And I think a few people are right. The hardest thing you do, and the Swans, they've had loss during a final series, but you just want to see some fight. You don't want to go around knocking someone out, but you want to just see something. You want to see some form of passion, the Papley passion that you saw a couple of weeks earlier against Willie Rioli. And, you just didn't see any of that. And that's probably, I think, from Horse and the Swans' point of view, the most disappointing thing. You didn't see anyone absolutely just try something.
Yeah, and I think it's the way they've lost, isn't it? So I think 222 points, Spide. They're losing margins in the last 4 grand finals, and it's the way they've done it. Exactly what you're saying right here. They're not. They're not having a crack. They're not stepping up to the plate, and it was their big guns who really failed to fire a shot on the weekend in particular too, and we've seen a lot of the breakdowns, a lot of the efforts have been kind of highlighted right throughout the week. How do you come back, Spide, as a group from this, do you think? Do you sit down, would they have reviewed this already, do you reckon, or if they let it go? What are you thinking?
Well, it's hard because, on the other hand, any team would love to be, would you rather get beaten by 10 goals or not be in a grand final?
Yeah.
Sydney is still making it.
Yeah.
I'd rather be making, like I follow the Saints and the Gold Coast Suns. Give me a 10-goal loss in a grand final any day rather than finishing 12th or 3rd. I'd be pumped. I'd be over the moon.
Yeah.
I'd even buy a ticket I'd even buy a ticket to their after party if they got done by 10 goals. But, mate, and then we're all bagging out. The Swans are still getting there. So they're doing something completely right. It's just on that last day. Now, we know Brisbane's had the hoodoo of the MCG for a long period of time and been able to overcome that, only a couple of points last week and this year. So, look, I think, they might need a bit of a change in the who's around, but they just didn't have any match winners on the day. So, to be honest.
The small ground, is the SCG, does that go against them in some way, shape or form?
Nah, it doesn't. I think it's To be honest, it just looked like they were flat. There was just mental. And
Yeah,
I think I go back to that point Fagan made earlier the week before. He's saying Brisbane come in cherry ripe. They had a lot of hard games. Sydney had the one tough game, but outside of that, it wasn't too bad. They had a lot of time
yeah.
off, and you can't implement that kind of football when you're coming off time. You need to continue to flow. Yeah, you might have injuries, but you got to keep running along with it. So yeah, I just think yeah, yeah, some teams just need to be able to continue to fight the fight throughout the finals to keep themselves in that good nick. Because Sydney were out of form and took them a while to get in form, and then they have one game in 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I had a bit of a think about this too after the grand final spot. I reckon the team that would be, I reckon, really ruining their final series would be the Giants because they were right in it against Sydney. They had them on the
Yeah.
ropes and they had Brisbane on the ropes. I reckon this is one that, to be honest, Spot, I reckon it's actually got away from the Giants because they could well and truly have possibly been lifting that premiership cup for the first time in the club's history.
Yeah, well, I think I'd love to see what their odds are this year because when you're talking about Brisbane back to back, I think absolutely with their young guys coming through like they have, they would have to be favourites to go back to back. And the only second favourite would have to be the Giants. I'm with you. They'd be kicking themselves right now, and the coach would be sitting there going, "We had them on toast. We had them on toast."
Yeah,
And it was
yeah.
only that last quarter that let us down in both of those games. So yeah, you kind of look back at it now and say, you know what, it was still a cracking season, and we loved everything that unfolded and every way it went. And unfortunately, the grand final ended up being a bit of a fizzer. And in the Gold Coast here, was supposed to be outdoors, and it was raining cats and dogs, so we're indoors. Didn't have the same atmosphere, but what a day in Melbourne when you see what Melbourne's been delivering weather-wise, and it was 24 degrees, perfect condition. You can't ask any more than that. So, I still reckon Brisbane Lions absolutely deserved it, though. They did start off slow, but, most premiership sides do. And they got their side together. They had a really, they talk about that meeting. They had a really good one-on-one session, and, they come out and they come out with belief. And, they're the best team in the second half of the year and end up winning a flag off the end of it. So, a well-deserved flag.
And it was the team aspect for mine. I reckon that was the
Yeah.
thing that changed with Brisbane. They started to do the team things, led by Joey Danaher. Now, big talking point to come on the back of the grand final, mate. Possibly Big Smoke and Joe, who I reckon had a cracking final series. Is talking about hanging them up, Spot. Would you walk away from $1 million contract?
No, I think they've got to get him in for one more year. And for a couple of reasons, they've got a couple of young blokes that probably need another 12 months. He still did have the most scoring shots. So, if he declares it now, so I'm going to have one more crack, people won't be on his back about if he does miss these easy shots. If he does this, he still get 1 in 4 in the grand final.
Spot on,
And
mate.
I just think, he just can offer so much. And even like Zorko and these guys, they don't have to play every week.
Yeah.
But them at training, manage them in, get themselves right. I don't think you would have won, the final series without Danaher. I thought he was fantastic.
No,
Realistically, he played in the ruck. He played that second tier really well. He controlled the footy, took marks up on the wing. I thought he actually had a really good grand final as well. So, they'd be disappointed, and that'd be a massive loss for them if they do lose him.
Now, Spide, you touched on a couple of those young players. Norm Smith, medal goes to Will Ashcroft. What a star that kid is going to be. Lockie Neal on one leg. We knew that story heading into a grand final. Kyle Lohman, the skeg, the surfer. Isn't he a ripper? Callum Archie, what a role he played in this final series as well. It's pretty exciting for Brisbane. Then you chuck in Charlie Cameron, Cam Rayner. There's plenty to like.
And that's what I say. Their list is strong. When you start talking about Archie being consistent now, Lohman being consistent, Will Ashcroft getting his hand on the footy. We know what Lockie Neal can do. And then they've got the solid, down back. And, they've got a solid back line with Harris Andrews and, Starcevich now. And, they've still got Coleman's got to come back into it. So there's plenty of players. And when I thought the game was over, when Eric Hipwood hadn't done a lot throughout the year, and a lot of people put the question mark over him. But when he got that kick from the boundary and kicked it and it went straight through, I said, that's enough for me.
She's all
That's
over,
it.
mate.
They can't lose. They cannot lose this. If Eric's kicking those things, the job is on. So, look, I just think they got. I think their seconds also played, maybe made it through to the prelim.
Prelim.
I think that prelim. So, they've still got a lot of players there as well. So, they've got a lot of upside. So, yeah, I think Brisbane. And they would have learned from this year to get better at the start of the year so they don't have to have so much pressure at the back end of the season. So, yeah, really interesting concept. And I think, they'll go deep, but at the same time, it's going to be a new season. Plenty of teams want to do exactly the same.
Hey, Spide, the Swans. The Lions become the second team, Bulldogs the other, in 2016 to come from outside the top four. We knew it was an even final series. You just had to get there this year. And to be honest, I thought Bulldogs, Hawthorn, along with the Lions that were in that bottom half of the final series, all had live chances. Is this bye affected, do you reckon? Like, do you think it's time to look at maybe having the bye before the grand final now?
It'd be hard because then it doesn't matter which way you look at it. You're going to have week off game, week off game, week off. So I think just that hardness of football, I think a lot of teams now will get belief if they finish 6th, 7th, 8th. We heard about the Bulldogs and it never really happened. But now, after what Brisbane showed, and don't forget, they were done and dusted. They were done by GWS. They just creeped over the line. So, they have only just made it. But the belief now for other teams to be able to do it, absolutely. Teams coming off a bye. We know even the mid-year bye. You don't want to be playing a team. You want to be playing a team that's coming off a bye. You think you freshen up, but you actually lose your momentum. So, it can be good for teams and it can be bad for teams as well. So, I think it's only that concussion rule that gets me. I still like to lead it up and have the last bye before the grand final.
Yeah, yep.
Both teams are even.
Hey, what about the Chris Fagan story? Isn't this a beauty? Coming not the normal way from Tasmania, sent his CV around to a few VFL, AFL clubs. Neil Danaher was the one that actually rang him up and said, you know what, come over for a second interview. We like what you're doing. Ends up becoming a senior coach. I think it was Greg Swan made the phone call and said, listen, are you a senior coach or are you a player manager? And he said, I want to have a crack at senior coaching. It's an amazing story, isn't it? And there's probably other people out there that are capable.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it. Yeah, we've got Stevie Daniels who coaches Southport Sharks. He's I think maybe Wodonga or Wollongong or some of those. Down in Victoria anyway. And he's come up. He's coached Labrador and Southport. He's been a part of the Suns. It's a sensational coach, and he could nearly do the same. So I just like how he put it on the front foot, sent it to the footy clubs and say, I'm passionate. This is what I want to do. And we've seen how he's been able to be, as you say, with Danaher and then went under Clarkson and be able to build what he believes is the philosophy behind coaching. Yep, you don't all have to be able to be, and we always thought, you don't know the game, you haven't played the game. But when you've been associated and you know how to, I suppose it's more being able to, be a teacher and school young men and educate young men and then have the brains around you, that can absolutely work as well. You don't need to you can't do everything as coach as it is. So as long as you've got the best people in all the other positions, why can't somebody else have a crack?
Yeah, I love it. I reckon it's absolutely brilliant. A great story. And
I think there's more opportunity. You look at sides like Essendon. I mean, sides like West Coast. You're going in with pretty young coaching staff.
And so Fagan had. So is that the second only premiership coach to not have played a game of AFL?
I'd be close, sure. Yeah, I reckon it would be, yeah. And I'm like you. I think there's a few people out there that are very good mentors and role models and people's persons and being able to control not only the playing group but the coaching staff. And when you go behind the scenes, there's probably about. Well, there'd be 50 people behind the scenes, behind physios and doctors and trainers and runners and, your recruiting staff and everybody that goes behind the scenes. So you got to be able to control all them and keep all them happy, as well as trying to coach on game day. It's a stressful situation. So, that's why if you put the right people in place, and you don't have to be an ex-player to be able to do that.
That's right. No, couldn't agree more, mate. Hey, listen, the tipping for the end of the season, big fella.
Come on. I know we didn't even want to do one.
Win by 2, mate.
We weren't even going to do one. And you said, no, we have to do one at the end of the season. I said, mate, Palmer Bet go, no, you don't. And you go, yes, we have to.
2 of the best, mate. 2 of the best. But there will be possibly next year, big fella. So
there will be. There will be.
Hey, now, listen, let's have a look at our best bets last week, too. You went the Swannies at the line, mate. Logan McDonald was on one leg 5 minutes into the contest for mine to kick 3+. Tommy Papley 2+, and Errol Gordon 1+. And they've all had average days, to be honest. It was not your day.
It wasn't mine. And don't worry, I told everyone it wasn't my day either. I was not happy at all. You could tell on stage I was not happy. Anyway, even halfway through they were giving the ceremony, they were giving all the medals out, and they're yelling out, number 22. Anyway, the big screen we're on, it clicked over and went to the rugby union, the All Blacks versus the Wallabies. And I said, I was going for the Swans. I'd rather watch the Wallabies, and I know they're going to get their pants pulled down, than watch this. So, it was a tough day.
It was a tough day, mate. Don't worry. I was nowhere near it. I was close. Brisbane won to 39. I did not have them winning by any more than that. Charlie Cameron, he got 1. Cam Rainey got 1. I need them both for 2+. It was just a tough way to finish the year, big fella.
Well, you know what? It would have been tough for a lot of people, even with their multis, unless they went Brisbane 1 out dominantly. If you doubled up your multis, because a lot of people would have had Heaney, Gordon, Warner, Papley, all these guys. No one would have picked Parker to kick 3. So, they would have had him 20, 25+ at least. And unfortunately, they just could not find it.
No, it was quite amazing, to be honest. And even the first play of the game, Charlie Cameron, I reckon there would have been a hell of a lot that had him for first goal. Lockie Neal got the advantage play on, kicked the goal, ball come back, Cameron misses. So there's all that.
It's so good. That kind of stuff was great. Brisbane had missed the first 2 goals, and then Sydney to kick the next 2. Like, I actually thought when the Swans had kicked the first 2. And I thought, gee, if they get one here, the mental demons could go the other way.
Yeah.
On the lines. I thought if they get 1 more.
2 minutes in that first quarter, in the middle part of that first quarter was probably their best bit of footy. And I thought, because the Lions dominated play for the first 10 and couldn't get any scoreboard pressure. And then Sydney took a bit of control, but then the Lions just got themselves back in. And then second quarter, she was all over. It was quite amazing. Hey,
the fat lady was singing.
Oh, well and truly, big fella. I was at a pub in South Melbourne, mate, and I was the only one barracking for the Brisbane Lions. There wasn't too many.
Oh, really? There wasn't a lot of there was a lot of Lions people out, but there was a lot where I was because I was on the Gold Coast. So everyone was very happy. It was more Brisbane than it was Sydney. So they elected to tell me that for most of the night.
Yeah, love it, mate. Hey, let's have a look at the 2025 markets, all thanks to Palmer Bet. And our premiership market has Brisbane as the fave spot at $6. Hawthorn, $7 second favourite. That is amazing. Sydney, Carlton and the Giants all at $8. Geelong, $10. Western Bulldogs, $10. Collingwood, $11. Fremantle, $12. Port Adelaide sliding out to $15. Melbourne on the slide, $26. Adelaide, $34. Essendon, Gold Coast, St Kilda, $41. North Melbourne, West Coast, Richmond, $101. The Tigers, $151.
Oh,
we're going to go there. Gee, Hawthorn's a big one for mine, Spy. Look, there's a lot of hype, a lot of talk about them. Will side start to work out their kind of brand of footy they were playing in the back half of the year? Is there going to be a bit of pressure on them heading into 2025? Are they short?
Oh, yeah, I think they're short. I think, $7 is always short this time of the year, $7.50. Their midfield, we know what it can do. They're going to bring a little bit of experience in. They're going for Battle from St Kilda and a couple of others. So can that upset what they've got? it's really a tough situation for them at the moment because they were so good, and now they're going to come with expectation being second favourite already, for 2025. So that's a lot of expectation. They would have been 100-1 last year, and now into second favourite. If Carlton same, Carlton have to try and draw in a few more players to pick up the slack. Patrick Cripps can't do it all on his own. They did have a lot of injuries, Carlton. So again, they'll be looking to build around that. GWS, we know that faded in the last quarter. That's just a mental thing. You'd think they'd be still around. Port Adelaide, I think $15 is still a good bit. They made a prelim. They have for the last couple of years. They're still going to have a pretty solid side. They're not going to have Charlie Dixon, so they're going to be one extra there. Unfortunately, it's been a tough year for Charlie. But if I had to, who would you back if you had to put a couple of bucks on right now?
I reckon Fremantle at $12 because if they get Shy Bolton, Baker, if they get a couple of players like that in the mix, I don't know. I reckon they're not bad value, and even Collingwood at $11. Giants we just touched on before, but there's talk of maybe losing a few, and even Brisbane to go back to back $6.
Yeah, I'll be looking at Brisbane back to back, and I'll be still landing Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide, there's a lot of players for some reason want to go to Adelaide.
Yeah, I know.
And they're Adelaide or Port Adelaide. They're not really fast. They want to go home to Adelaide. So, and out of that, all those players, a majority, still 70% say Port Adelaide. So, they're going to do well out of Dan Houston. So I still reckon Port Adelaide. I reckon they're going to go close.
Yeah. Right, I can't have the power. They just let me.
I know you don't like power, and I don't like Freo. So there we go. We meet halfway. We're going to go to that game. We're going to go to that game next year. All right? Port Adelaide versus Fremantle, wherever it is. Okay, the first time they match each other, we're going to get dressed up, and we are going to that game.
And loser has to do the show in the opposing team for the rest of the year. All right.
Yeah. And go out that night in the opposing team's gear at their favourite club.
Love it. Right, we're doing it. Hopefully it might be Gather Round or something. That'll be even better. Hey, Brownlow Medal 2025, Nick Dacos, the favourite, $6. Paddy Cripps, will he go back to back at $9? Isaac Heaney started the season so well, $13. Tommy Green, what a year he had from the Giants, $15. Bonham Pally, I just think he's missed that window, $15. Jai Newcomb, the up-and-coming star at Hawthorn, $18. Zach Butters from the Power, I reckon he's got a Brownlow medal in him spot at $18. And Will Ashcroft, I reckon he's definitely got one in him. He's the star in the block. He's at $18. Any plays tickle your fancy there?
Look, Nick Dacos, absolutely. Nick Dacos will win one. He polls the votes. He plays great footy. So I think, you're silly not to get on Nick Dacos. He will always shorten. Unless he gets injured, you'd expect him to be in the top 5. He's going to be shorter than that, even at the opening round. Round 1, he'll be shorter than that. So I think you look at that. For me, when you're looking outside the square, I think Cripps, it'll be tough for him. The Bont, I agree with you, probably missed that mark. Newcomb could be a good bet for Hawthorn. I'd like to see him for one more year. Butters, he can go, but I think Horn Francis and all them would step up. For me, I think Caleb Sarong. He is a jet. And even, there's a couple there in Freo, as much as, I bag out Freo, but there's a couple of players there that could win it. Caleb Sarong, absolutely for me. So he's probably a good value.
I reckon Ashcroft and Butters there at the $18. Just whack them in with a few moldies and stuff because, they're proven vote getters and they stand out. I reckon that is the way to head there. But geez, you're a brave man. I reckon taking Brownlow medal betting at this time of the year heading into season next year. That is
worth it if it gets it on early.
Worth it. That's it.
You're never going to get Dacos at $6.
No.
After round 1, you will not get Dacos at $6 unless he gets injured.
Yeah.
And he's been pretty good.
Hey,
So,
listen, you've been pretty good yourself, big fella, in season 2024. We've had a whole lot of fun. It's always
yeah,
good
it is good
banter,
fun.
mate. And it seriously was a magnificent season, Spide. It ebbs and flows. It's a long year, the AFL season. We know that. We saw teams that went in runs. Then they'd have some flat patches and stuff. But all in all, it was a really competitive season and a great one. And I must admit, mate, the next few months they turn pretty boring, don't they? I know we got
Oh,
horse racing and stuff, but there's not much happening, is there?
oh no, no, you kind of you weigh it up, and we know we go pretty much from Bathurst into the spring carnival, and as soon as that wraps up, we wait for the big fat man to come down the chimney and give me a pair of socks and a singlet. And then after that, we hit the Australian Open. As soon as the Australian Open's over, we know,
She's
bang, we
on.
are back into footy again. So we just pray that the Australian Open hurries up. But yeah, I agree with you. I think when you look at all the stats around 2024, 423 games gave us the Brisbane Lions as the premiers, but over 7.5 million people going through the gates. The biggest going through the gates ever, with the two teams,
Amazing.
Sydney and Brisbane, the biggest TV audience ever as well. So, look, the game's in great shape. It was great to see. We know Tassie's coming in a couple of years as well. So, it's fantastic. It's still good. And I know there's a lot of people that sit there and whinge and argue and bicker about this and bicker about that and the umpires and this and that and the tribunals. But you know what? We love a sport. It's been a great year. I still believe that the best team won and the best person won the Brownlow medal. So if you go outside that, you can't lose in a competition.
Nah, spot on, mate. Well summed up. It has. It's been an awesome year. Download that Palmer Bet app too and get your punters club happening before next year and have a bit of fun with your mates. And as we always say, gamble responsibly and always think about what you're really gambling with. Can we give a special shout out too to our man Kyle behind the scenes? Does a power work, him and Danny. Great people. They love their sport. They love their sports betting and they like having a bit of fun and they look after us magnificently well. So big shout out to those guys that put this show together each and every week, Spide.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't know what took them so long. It took them to about round 12 and they decided, you know what we need? We need to start putting, some of the bets that really matter in each game, a three-way multi, four-way multi. Because when they
Love it.
started putting those together, it come a lot. Like so many
Yeah.
of them actually, ran true. We know each
Yeah.
week one of them would have got up, three of them got up, sometimes four, and normally two out of the three legs get up. So it was a great addition to the show. And then, of course, we decided to have a little bit of a couple of units each way on a couple of our bets. And got a bit greedy towards grand final day, but everyone does. And didn't go our way. So we haven't got a footy trip, but we will head to the races at some stage over the next couple of weeks.
No, absolutely, mate. Looking forward to it. And I noticed the hair's still there, mate. It's hanging on for dear life, big fella. Look at that, mate.
Yeah,
Did you rock the red? Did you actually go with the red?
no, I was smarter than that. I'm happy I didn't as well because I just couldn't have copped too much more flack. So I was happy to keep it like this. I don't know, I might grow it a little bit more, see what happens. It's only in tribute now for Dusty when he gets to the Gold Coast Suns in a couple of weeks.
Mate, he won't go to the Gold Coast Suns, mate. There is no chance. You snuck that one in. Hey, it's got a little bit if you let it go a bit on top, it's got a little bit of the snake bite right. The darts player from overseas, Peter
Oh
Wright.
yeah.
So that's what we want.
180.
Hey, listen, mate, it's been a pleasure with you too, big fella. You're an absolute superstar on and off the field and kicking some goals up at the Gold Coast too, which is magnificent to see, mate. You have a wonderful off-season, big fella, and I look forward to catching up with you in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. Big shout out to everybody that watches, follows us. We really do appreciate it. To the guys at Palmerbet, absolutely. To Matty, yeah, it's been a pleasure. It always is. It's good fun. All we do is talk footy and try and back a winner, which is the most important thing. And we do it responsibly, but the most important thing is we have fun. So enjoy the off season. We'll see you back in 2025.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.